They didn't just borrow my driveway, they paved over it like somebody took a black marker and drew a new life on top of 8 years of mine. And for a hot second, I actually wondered if I was the crazy one for getting riled up about gravel and a line in the dirt. I work with soil and stone for a living. I keep things where they belong, and when a stranger decides your land makes a better entrance to his ego, well, that's not a suggestion you swallow. Let me back up a sec, because none of this makes sense without the small, quiet pieces that led up to the mess. I bought the place in 2016, 2 bedrooms, a leaning detached garage that looked like it'd been smiling at the sun for 30 years, and a wide gravel drive that wrapped beside the house and into the back. That driveway wasn't glamorous, but it was practical. My truck, my flatbed, my mowers and blowers fit there, so I didn't have to block the street, didn't have to hear neighbors grumble. I run a little landscaping outfit, nothing fancy me most days. 2 guys when it's busy, an old Ford F250 that's learned the route to every job in town. My dad taught me to care for what you own. If it's yours, maintain it. If it's not, leave it alone. For 8 years I did that, and nobody complained. Then the Callahans moved in next door. Derek and Monica bought the place for cash, paid way over asking, and then set about turning a tired ranch into a glossy magazine shot. Dumpsters, contractors, trucks with people who never introduced themselves, granite vans rolling like they were delivering treasure. They lit the house so it glowed at night, put in sod so perfect it could be photographed, and started looking at the block like it was their canvas. At first I thought fine people fix up houses, but then the looks started. The way Derek watched my trailer as if it were an error to his eye, the way Monica smiled like she owned the frame of the street. The first time I felt it was personal. He came over at dawn joggers and a stainless tumbler and said, "Hey man, we're trying to elevate the neighborhood a little." He nodded toward my driveway like that explained everything. "Ever think about enclosing that, moving the equipment?" "Invested," he said. Invested. That word stuck in my head like grit. A week later, 2 bright orange traffic cones were sitting just inside my gravel, not on any line, not where they belonged. I picked them up and placed them neat as a pin on his grass by the mailbox, like a polite suggestion. He knocked on my door later with slacks and a tighter smile and said they'd had a survey done just saying curb appeal matters. It was the shrug that got me. The smile, the survey, the confidence they weren't confused. 10 days after that, I came home and heard a compactor 2 blocks away smelled fresh asphalt, and my chest went cold. I rounded the corner, and there it was, a perfect black strip of pavement cutting through what used to be my gravel flowing into Derek's widened concrete pad. A decorative 4-foot iron fence had been planted 8 feet into ground I knew as mine. For a second, I just sat in the truck, the motor ticking, and thought maybe I'd misread something. Then I walked up to their door. Monica opened with a wine glass, and that polished, faked surprise. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Your driveway is on my land," I said, slow and flat. She sipped. "We had it surveyed," she said, easy as weather. I told her I had the original county plat, the deed iron stakes, the works. The door clicked closed like it was courteous, like it wasn't a door closing on a fight. And something inside me rearranged. Not just anger, but the feeling of your house being altered while you were at work, like someone slipped a new scene into your life without asking. I pulled out the paperwork that night, the deed and the county plat. The pins were exactly where I remembered. I found a rusty iron stake under the grass, the old marker right where the paper said it would be. This wasn't a neighborly misunderstanding. It was a calculated move. I called Derek. He laughed, a short, sharp sound, told me to call a lawyer if I had an issue, and hung up. They were betting I'd let it slide. They thought court was expensive and that I'd be tired of the fight. They were wrong. I'm not a fight-seeking man. I build retaining walls, plant trees, fix drainage. I like things solved quietly. But there's a difference between avoiding conflict and swallowing disrespect. I hired a real surveyor, Hank Morrison, old boots and a sunburned neck, and he walked the pins and drove new stakes, and then said it plain they'd gone 8 feet over. The stamped survey came back clean, the county plat matched, and I drove the copy to Derek. He shrugged at the paper like it was an inconvenience to his plans. "Our contractor stands by his measurements," he said. It wasn't confusion anymore. It was convenience. Lawyers do what lawyers do, demand letters, timelines that could be measured in seasons. Lisa Grant. My attorney laid it out months, maybe longer. While the law warmed up its slow engine, Derek continued to park his SUV on the strip like he'd planted a flag. If the law was slow, I decided to move fast, legally but fast. Ownership doesn't change because someone pours concrete and a property that's mine is a place I can use. The first delivery was mulch on a Tuesday. I had a big commercial job coming, so I had the supplier drop 3 cubic yards at my place. The driver backed up. The lift whined and a steaming black pile of mulch cascaded onto the exact strip Derek had laced through my gravel. By the time he came home, the access was a mound. He stormed. I stood calm. "Move it," he said. "You're on my property," I replied. He parked on the street. The mulch stayed 3 days. On the third, I shoveled most of it out for job use, and the asphalt reappeared. Next came 10 tons of gravel, big, unapologetic a load that hit the strip like a small landslide. Derek called the police. A young officer came polite and practical, read the survey, walked the line, and told Derek this was a civil matter. The gravel stayed. The clients who wanted the glossy entry had to trudge past a mountain of stone to get to his door, and the aesthetic he'd paid for suddenly had its own anchor, a reminder that lines exist for a reason. I added a touch of theater, because sometimes you have to make a point. People can't ignore rented the brightest blue porta-potty that a landscaping supplier offers, and placed it squarely on the disputed strip door facing Derek's living room windows. It was legal. It was on my land. And every evening that blue cube stood like a monument to the absurdity of trying to rewrite someone else's boundary. Derek called it childish. Maybe it was. But pouring asphalt on someone else's property felt pretty grown up. 2 weeks later, they served me papers, suing for nuisance, claiming I interfered with their enjoyment, lowered their value. Lisa didn't flinch. "We'll countersue," she said. Trespass, encroachment, illegal construction. It stopped being about parking then. It became principle. Maybe more importantly, it became obvious that this was about control, moving into a working-class neighborhood and reshaping it to fit a picture like a painting forced into a frame. Court was a gray Tuesday in October, the sky undecided, the air smelling like cold pavement. Derek showed up in a tailored navy suit, the kind you wear to close deals, not to settle petty disputes. His contractor's sketch, scrawled and unsigned, was presented like a gospel. Hank the surveyor walked the judge through pins and plats and how markers don't drift because someone wants them to. Lisa laid the paperwork down like bricks. The judge peered at Derek's contractor doodle, looked up and said, "This is not a legal survey. Ownership," he said, "is not transferred by improvement or preference." The ruling was clear. Remove the fence, remove the asphalt, restore the gravel, pay my legal fees, and a line in plain language: property lines are not suggestions. I didn't realize how tightly I'd been holding my shoulders until I let them drop. The blacktop came up with jackhammers that sounded down the street like a reset button. The iron posts were pulled and left narrow holes that I filled myself and smoothed over. The gravel looked scarred at first, but I leveled it and spread fresh stone until the driveway felt like mine again. Mrs. Peterson across the way shuffled over with her little white dog and said, "Glad you stuck to your guns," like she had the answer all along. Sometimes the folks who watch out the longest see what the rest of us miss. We don't talk to the Callahans. We nod sometimes, that's about it. Life settled back into its grooves. My trailer sits inside my boundary, my truck in its usual place, but the aftermath left a taste you don't swallow easily. For a while I wondered if the mulch and gravel and the blue plastic thing were petty, and yes, some of it was theatrical. Maybe mediation might have worked, maybe not. The truth I keep coming back to is simpler. Some people test you because they're confused, and some test you because they think you won't push back. If I'd let that black strip sit even a little, I don't think it would have stopped there. It would have been a truck next, then a curb line, then pressure from neighbors who suddenly saw an easy out. There's a lesson in it that I didn't shout at anyone. It came in a small, quiet way as I was smoothing new gravel one evening, the sun low and the air smelling like cut grass. Boundaries are about more than dirt and markers, they're about respect. People redraw lines when respect is optional, and that's rarely a small thing. That awareness, that tiny moment of, oh, felt like a moral standing up for what's yours, isn't always noble. Sometimes it's necessary because if you don't, someone else will assume you don't mind losing it. So here's the part I want you to wrestle with. Was I justified? Did my mulch and gravel and portable throne cross a line in trying to defend mine? Or was it the only language Derek understood? Would you have waited for the slow grind of the court? Or would you have made your own point legally, but loudly, the way I did? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me if you'd have done it different or share a neighbor story of your own. I read every comment, and yeah, if you've ever had someone forget where your line was, tell me about it. Sometimes the real drama doesn't happen in courtrooms, it happens 10 feet at a time right outside your front.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video. Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.